world range kilometers, that is an achievement. So applause, Audi, that is amazing.
Today, we're gonna find out how far the new Audi A6 Sportback E-Tron Quattro can go on a full charged battery at a constant 120 kph or 75 miles an hour. We'll also be doing road noise measurements to see how quiet the cabin is, as well as testing out the reliability of the route planner and predicted battery percentage at arrival. From the title, you guys know that this car will set a new record in this video. But will the A6 Sportback E-Tron be the first car ever to break the 500 kilometer barrier?
I've just come home from a very cool road trip from Oslo to Copenhagen in the new Porsche Macan 4. I'm gonna link that video down below. I would recommend you guys to check that out. I'm pretty, proud of that video. I thought, the production I did in that video is very cool. I'm just really proud of that video. One of the coolest videos I made in a long time. So I recommend you guys to check that out. But the results were pretty surprising and amazing. But during that whole trip, I couldn't shake, the idea of having the Macan 4, but in a lower, more aerodynamic package. And that is basically what this car is, because this is built on the same PPE platform, and spec-wise and performance-wise, this is pretty much the same as that Macan 4, though this has even more power, 428 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in like 4.7 seconds, but we have, the same front and rear electric motors, we have the same 95 kilowatt hours of usable battery capacity, or the Porsche has 95.0 and the Audi has 94.9, basically the same, and the same 270 kilowatts of peak charge speed. And this is that car, but lower and with a drag coefficient of 0.21 CD. So maybe I'm going to take this car to Munich later this year to the IAA, which is a trip I'm planning because I was there 2 years ago and I was there 4 years ago in my Audi e-tron GT. So wouldn't it be cool taking this or an S6 Sportback? Yeah, I think that would be very, very cool. And also, guys, I have a Norwegian channel, which I would highly recommend you guys to go and check out and to subscribe to, because I'm doing my range test and tests a little bit different there because I'm doing 80 and 100 kilometers an hour. So if you're interested in the range of this car at those speeds, check channel out and the video I already uploaded on this car, because there I'm going to be dropping the videos I do a day or two before I do it on my English channel. So if you want early access without paying, go to that channel and subscribe. And also, subscribing to that channel is going to make my content and me as a creator more attractive for the Norwegian brands, meaning I'll get earlier access and I'll also get invited to more events. So it is a win-win, because this English channel is still going to be the main channel, but I'm going to be uploading range tests and other Norwegian videos. So check that out. Thank you very much. So the Audi A6 Sportback e-tron. Yeah, I really love this car. I love the way this car looks on the exterior. I really like, this fabric denim interior. I complain a lot about, materials not being the best, and I still think there's a lot of improvement for quality in this interior, especially at this price point. But you can't deny that this is a beautiful car on the exterior. It drives beautifully, like this on air suspension. It's also relatively quiet on the motorway, even on these 21-inch Pirelli wheels and tires. But it's just one of the best cars to drive. And guys, remember, my reference point is my Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo. And no, this doesn't drive like a Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo or even a Taycan, but it's close. And it is a very good car, which is more efficient and a lot more practical. Yeah, and talking about efficiency, after half an hour on the road, our average consumption is 18.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And that is looking very promising for this car to set a new record. But we're not gonna, jump to any conclusions yet. We have to complete the whole trip, because we also have a slight push in this direction of 1 to 2 meters per second, northeastward, so not directly northward, but that is gonna help us just a little bit. So I don't wanna, call out a new record, half an hour into this trip, but it is looking very promising for this car. And maybe you guys already know from the title. I don't know, but maybe you guys know. I've talked about this extensively at this point in time, but I think it is worth mentioning it because when the ADAS doesn't work well in a car, like a lot of the Chinese cars I've driven, I complain about it. And I think it's equally as valid to talk about when ADAS works flawless like it does in this Audi A6 Sportback E-Tron. And all the cars I've driven on this platform, the Q6 E-Tron and also the Porsche Macan, it just works flawless. And what I really like about this platform in this car, despite that it just tracks center in the lane, there's no, oddities when we're passing cars or trucks, no phantom braking. It doesn't get, nervous when we're passing an on or off ramp. It just works flawless. Is that I haven't, had my hands on the steering wheel for a while now and it gives me a message, but all I have to do is just apply pressure to the steering wheel and then that's good. So that's so nice with this car because you don't have to constantly, correct, because most cars actually have, a input sensor or, does software to just gauge your input. And then if you don't, steer like this all the time, it will give you a message to put your hands back on the steering wheel here. You just apply pressure and that's good enough. It is so nice, this car, on a long trip where the ADAS really helps you out. We're now here at our turnaround point in Moelv, and when we left, the car predicted we would arrive here with 67%. We're actually here with 71% state of charge. That is very good. And average consumption of 17.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. The real test starts now. We're gonna head back into the headwind, and I'm super curious to see how low or how high the consumption is going to be when we get back and what range we're able to get out of this Audi A6 Sportback E-Tron. We are now approaching our endpoint where we started this range test a few hours ago. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to connect to a charger here and see what kind of charge speed we're going to get after just a few hours on the road, passive heating of the battery, no preconditioning. We do that in another test called a long trip test because this car does have preconditioning by the navigation system, but this test is all about getting that maximum efficiency and the most range. And we're going to stop the timer here at an hour and 41.5 minutes or an hour 42 minutes, and I'm really curious to see what range we're gonna get today, guys, because this is possibly gonna be pretty freaking amazing. Maybe, we'll see. Okay, now we're here at the chargers. We're here with 51% battery. The car predicted 46% when we arrived here, and the consumption, I'm gonna reveal that in just a second, but first let's connect to a charger, go through the sound measurement results, and then I'm gonna reveal the range and the consumption. Okay, we have now connected. The charge port is here on the driver's side. On the other side, there is an AC charge port, but on this side, it's the only place where you can do DC fast charging. I'm not a huge fan of these electrically operated ones because some of the times they don't work. On this car, it's been fine, but I've experienced, on the Q6 E-Trons that they haven't always worked. And the Macan I had last week also, the AC port on the passenger side didn't work at all. So had issues with them. So let's see what we're gonna get now. 51% stated charge is what the car says we ride with, and let's see what charge speed we get now with an ambient temperature between 24 and 26 degrees Celsius. Okay, we're getting 150 kilowatts at 52% without preconditioning. I think that is actually very, very good from this car. Now let's take a look at the results from our noise measurement testing. So at 80 kilometers an hour, we did 2 measurements over 2 minutes each for an average of 63.5 decibels. And at 100 kilometers an hour, we did 3 measurements, 2 minutes each for an average of 64.75 decibels. And lastly, at 100 kilometers an hour, 2 measurements over 2 minutes each for an average of 66.75 decibels, which is very, very good. One of the best results we've gotten, especially considering that this car is on summer tires. But noise is very subjective because though these are one of the best results we've had in any of our objective testing, to my ear, there's still quite a bit of tire noise from this car, and there's a resonance that I just haven't experienced in other quiet cars, like for example the Polestar 3 or the Volvo EX90. So on paper this may be very close, but in my opinion the actual experience of sound in this car is very different to those, because this car barely any wind noise at all, even going 120 kilometers an hour. But with the Polestar 3 and the Volvo EX90, at those speeds, there's actually noticeable wind noise. It's not a lot, but you can hear the wind, hitting the windscreen and the mirrors. But on the flip side, there is basically no audible tire noise in those cars at 120 kilometers an hour. So the overall picture, in my opinion, is that those cars are actually significantly quieter in experience, though this has very close measured results when it comes to instrumented testing. So that is just something for me to note. For the noise measurements, you have to look at the objective testing and also subjective opinions. But go out and test these cars for yourself and tell me what you think. So for the results, and this is pretty interesting. From the title, this is a new record. You probably knew it before I knew it, but this is a new record, but by how much? So this car had an average consumption today of 18.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is very, very low and significantly lower than the Q6 E-Tron Quattro, which shares this platform. So when we take the battery pack size, 94.9 kilowatt hours usable, divided by the consumption, and then subtract 3% for heat and discharging losses, this car under today's conditions, pretty warm and not completely, without any winds, of 498 kilometers, which is an amazing record. It is a milestone, an amazing achievement. So congratulations, Audi, for making a very efficient large electric car with a big battery that can travel long and also has fast charging. Like that combination, I think we're gonna set a new record in my long trip test, which is gonna be the next video, so subscribe for that. But it's a little bit bittersweet because we're 2 kilometers away from breaking that 500 kilometer milestone. But okay, in imperial units, we've broken the 300 mile milestone, so that is something. But real world range at 120 kilometers an hour, 75 miles an hour, 498 kilometers under warm conditions, 24 to 26 degrees Celsius, and also this car on 21-inch wheels, that is an achievement. So applause, Audi. That is amazing. And I'm pretty sure if we were running in 20 degrees Celsius, it was cloudy, overcast, and this car was on like 19 or 20-inch wheels, this would have easily broken that 500 kilometer barrier. And remember, guys, this is real world testing. When I go out and I drive on trips, like I recently went to, to Copenhagen in the Macan, the consumption I had on that trip, which was, a mixture of 100, 110, and 120 kilometer an hour speed limits, mostly 110, but also patches of 100 and 120. The average consumption was pretty much what I got in my range test results, meaning that car easily could go 400 kilometers in the real world on the motorway. And this car, no doubt this car can go 500 kilometers, which is amazing. So that is pretty cool. It breaks the old record, which was 451 kilometers set earlier this year under quite similar conditions with the Polestar 3 long range dual motor, by about 50 kilometers, which is insane. That's like 10-12%. So guys, let me know what you think of the results of the Audi A6 Sportback E-Tron Quattro. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later, and goodbye.